Hello, welcome to episode number 3. I'm Chase Clark, I'm the host and owner of Details and Dents, and today we're going to get started on our level 1 detail. Our level 1 detail is kind of our bread and butter here. It's what the majority of our clients are getting when they come in. It is what we consider a deep clean. We're going to do an exterior wash, paint decontamination with chemicals, and then we're going to get on the inside of the vehicle, clean top to bottom. So the very first thing on a level 1 detail is inspecting the car for details, for defects, and seeing what all is going on. If it has water spots, has marring, any type of paint chips we can correct, and so forth. So now we're going to go ahead and inspect the vehicle. All right, so to check out the vehicle, one thing you can do is just have the vehicle in direct sunlight and use the sunlight. Obviously today we're in our external wash bay, so I have a scan grip light. This is going to give us a good reflection deep in the panel to see what's going on. This car is a Audi A7 2015, and it has had a little bit of improper maintenance. When we're looking at it, we're getting reflections of a lot of marring, a lot of swirling in the paint, just a lot of defects that came from improper washing. And so we're not going to correct those today. We're just doing a wash. And later on in another video, we are going to use the same as that car and do a full 2-step correction. As I'm looking at it, I'm seeing tons of water spots. So we are going to add a water spot concentrate to our steps in our detail. And we just had this front bumper painted for him. He was in a slight accident, so we know that is all good. And then we're just going down, seeing if we pick up any other damage. You normally want to go through this with the customer, so when you see something, you can point it out. That way, when they pick up the vehicle, there's no surprises. And that's what I've noticed a lot in this industry. The more you communicate, the more you educate your customers, the less issue you're ever going to have. All right, so now that we have checked the vehicle out, we're ready to get started. We need to get our chemicals together, all of our mitts, our wash rags, our soap, rinse bucket, and our wheel bucket. We're at our chemical rack. Right now we have 3 buckets. In our 3 buckets, we make sure that we have grit guards to protect. What this does is as you put a mitt in there and it has dirt, the dirt will hopefully lock in underneath it, and then the water or the chemicals above it will stay cleaner. Our 2 buckets right here are going to have our wash and our rinse bucket. In our rinse bucket, we actually put 2 grit guards in here just because when it comes off the car, that's where most of the dirt and contaminants are going to go, and then it should be pretty clean as we go into our wash bucket. We also have our wheel bucket. We're going to put our yellow super soap. Our yellow super soap is what our most concentrated soap. That's going to break down any of the wax, the sealants that are technically on the vehicle and help us get them off. And we're going to put just regular deionized water into our rinse bucket. All right, now that we have gathered all of our buckets with our chemicals and water and our equipment, our rags, spray bottles, and mitts, it's time to get started on the car. When we wash a car, we start always top to bottom, and I like to separate the car in 3 different areas. The top being the least dirtiest, then the middle and the sides of the vehicle, putting in the hood and the deck lid, and then the very dirtiest would be the front bumper, rear bumper, and the side skirts. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to rinse the vehicle top to bottom. We're going to crack open the deck lid, the hood, spray all the hinges. Once we get the major debris off the vehicle, then we're going to address the engine and go into the tires. The reason we go in the engine, tires, and wheels is because they kick up a lot of dirt and grime. And we don't want to wash the car top to bottom, then address the wheels and push dirt from the wheels onto the car. So it's going to be one of the first things we address. All right, so now we're going to get to rinsing the vehicle. Now that we have done our exterior rinse top to bottom, it's now time for us to focus on our engine bay. What we have is our heavy duty degreaser and a wheel brush. And what you want to be careful of, you want to make sure the engine isn't hot. Secondly, you have to know what you're working with. A lot of new cars, everything should be waterproof under here. But older cars, alternators, fuse boxes, sometimes it can be a little bit of an issue. So just have a little bit of common sense, look into the engine bay, figure out what you're working on. If you need to cover an alternator, grab a plastic shopping bag and then cover that piece. If you're uncomfortable spraying water into the engine bay, get a smaller pump sprayer or a bottle and they'll be just as fine. We're gonna go ahead and use our pressure washer. All right, so we are done with the engine bay, but we never want to actually right now shut the hood because we're going to come back to this area. And as we clean other areas of the car, it's going to kick up some dirt. So we're just going to make sure we come back and put eyes on the engine as well as dress the engine. So right now we're done with the engine. We're going to move to the tires, tires and wheels. But because we have multiple people working on this car today, we're going to go ahead and also add the first layer of foam on the car, let it dwell in, eat up some of the dirt while we run around the car and work on the wheels and tires. We're about to foam can the car. While I'm foam canning the car and letting it dwell in, Felix is gonna come beside me and he's gonna be taking care of the wheels. I'm gonna grab a boar's hair brush, and while the foam is hopefully eating in and taking out some of that dirt, I'm gonna hit the cracks and crevices with our boar's hair brush. I have my boar's hair brush. You can see while I'm gonna go ahead and hit the cracks and crevices, Felix is gonna go ahead and hit the wheels. We have a specialized concentrate wheel cleaner with wheel woolies and different brushes to get in all the cracks and crevices of the wheels. Now that we have let the foam dwell in the car for about 3 to 5 minutes and hit the wheels, we get all the cracks and crevices, we can do now our initial rinse of the foam, and we're gonna refoam and start with cleaning. The reason I like to do a foam before I actually wash is for the cracks and crevices brush, the boar's hair brush. That allows me to get in all the small areas to where when I'm going across with a mitt, you normally miss those, where we hit them before we even start. All right, so now we're gonna rinse. Just finished with our rinse. We've gotten the wheels, the engine bay. Now it's really time to actually get on the exterior of the paint. We're gonna foam the car top to bottom, and then me and Felix are gonna go ahead and start washing. We're gonna mirror each other. We're gonna leave the buckets at the front of the car. You're gonna watch how we go from washing the car to rinsing the mid out, cleaning it, and then going back to the wash bucket and back on the car. The next few steps are pretty important. It's how we go about preventing contamination to spread from one panel to the other and protect your paint. When these mitts come off the car, they immediately go into our rinse bucket. When they go in the rinse bucket, we're actually massaging it. We're trying to clean it. We're not just dunking. Dunk, clean it out, make sure it's good, visually look at it, and then go back into your wash bucket. It takes a few seconds, but it's literally going to keep your clients' cars and our clients' cars looking great for a long time. When you put your mitt on the car, we're pretty specific on how we do this. You only get 2 swipes with your mitt and then you turn it over to a clean surface. So we'll normally start about right here. We'll go to halfway or the sunroof. We will then come back, flip that mitt over to the clean side, do it one more time. And that as long as that mitt can be on the car without going into the wash bucket, the rinse bucket, that's gonna keep all the contaminants off this mitt for a long time. Another reminder for the DIY guy and the not so experienced detailers, when you're detailing a car, always try to have one hand behind you. We see it all the time where detailers in the country are holding their car, pushing the car like that. These metals are getting so thin nowadays that we're actually seeing compression marks or push marks when people are actually working on the vehicle or just washing the vehicle. So be very cautious of that. So we just finished section 1 of the car, which is the top panels. Now we will go from section 1, which should be the least dirtiest of the car, to section 2, which is going to be from the pillars or rails all the way down to that last body line before we get to the skirt. That body line normally prevents a lot of dirt from coming up, so we want to stay above it. That way we're not picking up dirt from down there and bringing it to another area. Obviously, the front of the car gets more dirt than most, minus the rear bumper where the exhaust carbons spit up and connect to the bumper. The front normally has a lot of bugs, juice, and other things. We live in South Carolina, there are tons of bugs. So what we'd like to do with a car that is heavily hit is we'd like to go ahead and put an all-purpose cleaner or a bug-specific cleaner on the vehicle, let it eat some of that away before we manually remove it. The more manual work you have to do to clean the car, the more damage you're actually doing to the car. We just finished with our wash of the vehicle. Now we're gonna go ahead and rinse off. We're putting back on our 40-degree tip. One little extra advice, I tell you, always spray away from the car first. If this is not seated in there all the way and you spray and you're facing the car, you're gonna ding and dent and damage, maybe even chip some paint. So always spray your nozzles away from the car first. Now that we have washed the car and kind of moved all of the physical debris off the car, we're gonna have to chemically decontaminate the car. This vehicle had water spots, and it's obviously this car is metal, so there's iron particles sitting on top. It's a ferrous material. We're gonna go ahead and start with Iron X. We're gonna Iron X the entire car, let it dwell, and then we're going to foam cannon and then rinse it off. We're not going to be clay barring this car. The only time we clay bar to decontaminate a car is if we're following it up with either a polisher or we're doing a true correction or possibly even wet sanding. We just finished putting our Iron X on the vehicle. We're fortunate enough that we have shade. It's kind of a cool day. We can let it dwell for 2 to 3 minutes before we rinse it off. If you're in a hot surface and you're in direct sunlight, I really recommend that you're doing just one panel at a time. Wetting the panel, get it nice and lubricated. Throw your Iron X, your chemical on there, your decontaminant, and then maybe 1 minute rinse it off, but never let any of these chemicals dry on your car, especially in direct sunlight. All right, so we just finished rinsing off all of our Iron X, and now we're coming back with a water spot treatment. This car was heavily soiled. We saw it when we did the walk around. When we do this, we're going to spray each panel, go panel by panel, let it dwell for about a minute, and then we're gonna come by with one of our paint specific purple rags, have it nice and lubricated. If you still have your buckets out from before, you can just dunk it back in your wash bucket. It should be nice and clean. These should stay clean. There's not that much dirt on the panel. So let's go. We just finished with the chemical decontamination process of our wash, and before we do our final rinse with DI water, I like to go ahead and do one more layer of foam. I've always thought that the foam helps grab anything that we have on the paint that we might have missed or some of the chemicals, and that's gonna help when we rinse to get everything off the panel, keep it nice and clean. We just finished with our last foam cannon spray. Now it's time to move on. We're going to rinse this with deionized water. This is gonna help prevent water spots, and it's gonna really speed up your drying time. We use DI's rinse system, and at the end of this video, we're actually gonna talk about all the equipment I've used throughout. We just finished our DI rinse of the Audi, and now we're gonna dry before we get into the interior cleaning detail. We use the Drying Duo. You would like to have these a little saturated at the beginning of each day. It seems like when they're damp, they like to grab the water. When they're dry, they're really not gonna do their job efficiently. We just finished with the exterior part of the detail. We wait to the very end to put our sealant on there. So now we're gonna start on the interior. We start by removing all the mats. After we remove the mats, depending on the type of mat, if they're rubber, we hit them with a all-purpose cleaner first, and then maybe a drill brush or reel brush, and then a rinse. If they're carpeted mats, we come with a heavy-duty shampoo concentrate, let it dwell, hit it with a foam brush, really agitate it really well, and then we rinse them out and put them out in the sunlight and in front of our infrared heat lamps to dry. Today we have rubber mats. They're one of my favorite to clean. They're pretty easy. You normally just want to lubricate them, knock all the dirt off, come back with an all-purpose cleaner or some type of soap detergent, and then either hit it with your wheel brush, or you can find a medium strength dealer brush, and we're going to use both. Now that we have our mats cleaned and rinsed, they're hanging on our specialized drying rack. It's time to get started on the interior of the vehicle. We use the Ridgid, I believe it's a 6.5 horsepower. It's a workhorse. We love these because they have a lifetime warranty. If anything ever happens, we run straight up to Home Depot, swap them. Once we're on the inside of the vehicle, I love to use the scan grip light. What this does is it puts a beam right in front of me and helps me really concentrate on where I'm cleaning. All right, let's get to work. Now that Felix is done with the vacuum portion of all the soft surfaces, we're going to start back in the driver's side seat. And what we're going to do is we're going to work on all the hard surfaces, the plastics, the vinyl, some of the buttons. We're going to use the Vapor Chief 125 on all of the surfaces where we can get water and steam on. For any of the cracks and crevices that may have some electrical components, we're going to be a little bit safer. We use a boar's head brush, and we're going to use light detergent such as O&R. Just finished up doing our first round of hard surface cleaning using our Chief Steamer 125, our O&R detergent, and our Boar's Hair brush and air compressor. Now we're going to get into our carpet extraction using the Mighty Carpet Extractor, a 2-gallon pump sprayer with our HD carpet solution, as well as a drill brush. What we're going to do is we're going to saturate the carpet with our detergent, agitate it slowly with our drill brush, and then we're going to extract steam and get all of that out of the carpet. We're about halfway done with the interior detail. We just finished with the carpet extraction. Now we're going to go back and do our final wipe down. We're going to concentrate looking at the headliner, make sure there's no spots, residue, or anything. Work ourselves all the way down. After our final interior wipe down, we're going to go ahead and vacuum one more time. That way we get anything we might have missed, anything we might have knocked off during the wipe down. We're going to start the car, turn the heat on the floorboards, that way it can dry any of the leftover residue, and we're going to concentrate on our door jambs and underneath the doors. We're going to use a mild detergent. If they're bad, sometimes a heavy duty degreaser. If they're already clean, we're going to drop down and use O&R. Just finished up with the door jambs. He went ahead and took care of the glass, interior and exterior. The only things left to do is to reinstall our mats, put our spray sealant on there, and then tire dress it, as well as check the engine one more time. As you can see, we are finishing up our level 1 detail. Only thing left is really to pull the car out, do a quick inspection, and then we're going to talk about all the equipment we used today. We just finished with our level 1 detail. Now we're going to run through all the equipment, or some of the equipment that we use throughout the process. We use the Cobalt air compressor to blow out all the cracks and crevices. We have our 2-gallon pump sprayer for our HD carpet solution. Our Vapor Chief 125 steamer. We have an AR 630 pressure washer with our rigid 6.5 vacuum. All of our chemicals are Trinova foam cannons. Our Scan Grip headlighting. We use our NTM pressure gun. We also have a boar's hair brush and a nylon brush for all the dirty spots, the engine, the wheels. We use 3 different microfibers. Our yellow interior rag, our blue waffle for the glass, as well as the black for our grit. Over there we have our DI rinse system, and we have our Mighty extractor. Now we're gonna do another video later going more in depth on our equipment and why we use certain things, but for now this is what we use. So if you could, give us a like and subscribe on our YouTube buttons, and check us out for our next video. Thank you.